radio video boogie with the suitcase. I'm sorry, that has been in my brain for like the last 24 hours. Apparently, the all-new Nissan Leaf for 2026 has just unveiled, and I definitely have some thoughts. But of course I do, because I'm me. What's up, guys? My name is Chris, and welcome to The Breakdown, where we talk about everything cars, news, and reviews. If you are new to the channel, welcome. And as always, if you are not, welcome the back. So, of course, in the car community, nobody wants to hear about EVs. Well, guess what? You're going to hear about it today. Nissan has just unveiled their all-new EV Leaf, and it is very different from the predecessor for the last two generations. And this is my analysis, not necessarily of the tech specs that a lot of people tend to go through. Y'all know how I get down. Y'all know I look at the whole picture, not just what's in front of me. And this new Nissan, if I'm correct, represents not only Nissan trying to get it together, but it could be very well a different direction for Nissan, and we have to talk about it. So with that being said, in this video, we'll not only be talking about some of the tech specs, but more importantly, how this could really change the way that Nissan will be going in the future. So if that's something of interest to you, stick around and stay tuned, because you are now watching The Breakdown. And this new Leaf is very, very different. It's very much a little bit shorter, a little bit stout, and design-wise, very different. You see a lot of different elements from the Nissan Z that are translating over into this new arena of EVs for Nissan. Now, in the car community, we do not like the Leaf. We don't like anything that doesn't have a major V8 and doesn't scream, oh my God, I have to have this car today, take my money. But the Nissan Leaf in particular, when it first debuted, was a big deal because the EV space wasn't really even thought of. Next to, we could argue Tesla was even on the pioneering forefront of that, but Nissan really took advantage of the opportunity and jumped on it and created the Leaf. Now, at the time, the market was pretty small. It wasn't that big. And one of the biggest pain points for the Leaf of yesteryear was that the charge sucked. I believe it only had like 150-mile range, and it caused a lot of anxiety. It wasn't exactly attractive. And for many people who got a Leaf, it was because they got an amazing deal. Well, this new one is a lot more different, and I have a few thoughts behind not just the design language, but more importantly, just how this could be a very good thing for Nissan, because you know I give Nissan hell.
Okay, not really.
But if we're going to go into the specs, this is going to be a little bit different. So this is a little more powerful than the last outgoing generation, which is about 174 horsepower this go around versus the 147-ish that was on the last one. Now, if you do want to go for the more powerful option, you can go for the 214 version, which has a few more kilowattage, I believe around 75 kilowatts per hour. And that will take you up to the 214 horsepower. And this also comes with a very generous 261 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty good considering most EVs usually do give you a healthy amount of torque. What makes this one a little different than the last one and other EVs as well is that they don't force you to go to the Tesla charging network with the NACS charger. It also includes the older style charger if you just want to go for that AC versus just going mainly into the Tesla ecosystem. But that's not where I'm going here. So we can talk about the interior looking a lot more cleaner. We can talk about the design language being more sharper, more dynamic. And even though it has an SUV-like stance, it is still a little bit shorter and a little bit more tout than the outgoing generation. And it's not as frumpy, but that's really not where I'm going with this at all. So the real interesting thing is that Nissan, especially in their EV space, have not exactly been doing that well. Even if you look at the Aria, it made no noise for the community, especially for sales. I mean, I've seen people say they're getting like $150 per month for a lease, which is absolutely insane. And that's particularly because they just don't sell well. But Nissan, within the last couple of years, has really been struggling to make a name for themselves, not because they don't have the performance, they don't have any of the adulations that come along with being a Japanese brand. What's been happening is that Nissan has kind of lost themselves. And being that the Leaf at one point was a pioneer for all intents and purposes, and now is kind of a shell of its former self, it is apparent that Nissan is trying to put I don't know, a little more effort into what they're trying to do. I was looking at this one and I was kind of comparing it to the design language, and I kind of noticed that Nissan was really doing a really bang up job trying to change how we perceive them. And granted, the Altima rumors will never be false, but the truth is that Nissan as a brand has really been trying to find, are they even worth building? And so this new Leaf kind of gives more leaning into not just the Aria, but also into the kicks as well as the Nissan Z. If you look at the rear of the Nissan Leaf, you can see some of those inspirations, and I don't know what that design language is called, but you can see a trail from those 4 models, and apparently there's a few more models coming in the pipeline. There's even rumor of a Nissan Xterra coming in as well. So the question comes in is, how is this Nissan Leaf prevalent for those of us in the car community? What I am saying is this, is that Nissan is actually trying. I know that sounds crazy, but it appears that Nissan is actually trying. We even saw something like this when the Prius first came out, probably about 2 years ago. What I'm seeing is that Nissan is actually trying to give us something worth looking at. Despite the Leaf being 174 horsepower, it still shows that they're improving significantly better, and they're improving their battery technology. Now, the irony is that a lot of car companies are absolutely rolling back, stepping back, doing the 2-step on EVs. So this is kind of a late to the party situation. And one of the best bargains you can get currently on the market is the Leaf. Being that this is going to be an incoming model and it's still around $30,000 starting price, and you probably get a great lease on it, shows that Nissan is indefinitely trying. Now, as far as it being a little more SUV-like, I was never in the market for this, so my opinion really does not matter. But I will say that it is more modernistic, it is more cleaner in design, and it's also a lot more sharper, and it gives a lot more presence that the old model just did not have. But I will say this, if Nissan can figure out how to make stylish designs at an affordable price with decent performance, they may in fact have a chance. Now, they may have to reduce some of their incentives because Nissans are just oftentimes just cheap. But the thing to remember is that as long as Nissan continues to improve and give more attention to their lineup and just kind of go back to the basics and not fix what was broken or not fix what I think is broken. I don't know how the I said that, but basically, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But as long as Nissan can continue on the path of making their cars more appealing, but not exactly cheap in quality, and have a fairly reliable, if not superior reliability, which is really the basis of all of this, Nissan in fact may have a chance, and I think it starts with this Nissan Leaf. I think that this Leaf opens up the door for many more models to surpass what they used to look like, and could be the next Hyundai, Kia, could be the next Mazda. And I think that Nissan just has to kind of hold themselves accountable and say, we didn't do exactly a great job on the last few cycles of our last models, and if we make these next up and coming models, we may just have a chance and bring ourselves back from the you know what. And I think that overall, being that this has got a decent amount of performance and is comparable to either the Prius plug-in hybrid, the Civic hybrid, which has about 200 horsepower, there is a lot to discuss here in terms of the opportunities for Nissan. But I won't hold you guys too long. I just wanted to talk about this because this just came up. But leave me a comment below. Let me know if you think that the Leaf is even worth talking about, given that this is such a huge model for them, as this is one of their best sellers. This Nissan Leaf could be a tipping point for whether or not Nissan floats or they sink. And with that being said, until the next video, I will see you guys later.